A good teacher may actually tell a child with an evolutionary question saying that, that's fantastic. You know what? I have the same question. I don't know the answer. That is the power of evolutionary.
Make that childhood joyous. Whatever the child is doing, whether it is studying in the classroom, whether it's discovering something, make it a joyous experience.
So as we seek knowledge, our curiosity builds, and I'm certain with every passing question that we have, we would not have answers but layers and layers of multiple questions.
If every child is allowed to be themselves, you will be having all these unique individuals within your classroom who will learn the same syllabus, but they will bring in different aspects of that subject.
Brilliant.
And that is the way forward.
The ability to own one's fragility, the ability to own one's inability, the ability to say that I'm as human as you are, and that moment of saying I'm as human as you are, magic happens in life.
We have with us two remarkable people. So one who's been an actor, director, life coach, Sri Raja Krishnamoorthy, and the other, Aysha Rau. So a very aggressive friend, most importantly, then a wonderful parent, and also a remarkable playwright who shapes and brings together different cultures to try and understand how creative expression can actually shape learning. We have two varied personalities with remarkable experiences in different walks of life, here to narrate to us their perspectives. And then over the next 10 minutes of conversation for each of them, we will pause to ask several questions. This is the 45 minutes or so a session. We called it the Unfiltered Conversation, but I would like to add on unfiltered conversation with filtered coffee and filtered tea. So over to Sri Raja Krishnamoorthy, sir. We understand from our several conversations and listening to you that you bring very interesting perspectives to trying and understanding what questioning is about. You've also shared with us on several occasions the subjectivity that exists with respect to who we are as individuals and the objective realities that shape our professional spaces. So can you please help us understand your perspective a little bit more, sir?
Sure. Thank you for that wide and deep question. In the first place, when we look at questions per se, I'm reminded of this old quote. I'm sure most of us must have heard this or read this somewhere. And I remember reading this in my intercommerce. In Bombay, we used to have this first year inter, junior, senior, intercommerce non-detailed book. And the quote was something like this: I have 6 good friends. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what, where, when, why, how, and who. It was a beautiful thing that kind of got etched in my mind almost in a lifetime. And in the passage of life, when I look at it, at least personally, and I'm very sure for most of us, the bigger breakthroughs and clarities emerged when we chose to ask questions. When we therefore look at this reflective learning in life through questioning, and especially the why, which has been kind of captured here, I see essentially 3 types of whys which are possible. And I think all the 3 of them are very, very important, and I'll relate to that personally. The first why is the conceptual why. That's seeking of clarity And therefore, you're looking at a subject matter and asking why. Why does this behave this way? Why is a chemical, kind of turning out to be something? That's a conceptual kind of why. The second why is what I call as the challenging why. And that's the rebel why, okay? That's a challenge of, why should I do this? Why are you asking me to do this? Why is this to be followed? Why me? Why not somebody else? And I think that is also a very important why. And I think this why threatens actually teachers and principals and, institutional leaders, because it's a very rebellious kind of why. And I feel that this why is a very important why to be recognized and nurtured. In my own personal, kind of journey of life, this why was a very important turning point in my college days. The very principal who in my first conversation told me that next time this happens, you may not be in this college. 2.5 years later, gave me the principal's award for the best student in the college. So that why has a different dimension. And I think the third why I realize is the most important why in the journey of life, which is why am I a human being? And why is this existential magic and mystery of life? Reflective, introspective, self-evolution. So I think all these three are very important. And I'm seriously, I'm very doubtful whether today's educational system and its structure provides avenue for even one of these whys in a deeper kind of way. And I think we need to recognize the importance of all these three, and actually as leaders of educational systems, explore the ways in which we start thinking about it and putting this into action. Because one thing I really respect this conference for, I must salute you guys, because you said for India 2040. I said, my God, at last, long-term vision. Somebody talks about 18 years from now, we are talking sense for a change. And I'm saying there is a possibility, because that is a kind of designing, that is a kind of foresight that we need to have. If you want to change, if you want to really, become the kind of India and become the kind of nation that we want to become the kind of culture that we want to become. Because at this point of time, I would say this possibility of reflection through questions, and I'm daring to say this, and I'm willing to get a bit of stone pelting, probably exists 5 to 10% in the educational system. I will begin with this. We'll hear the other speaker and then kind of move further.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that opening remarks. So I'm just going to ask Aysha to pause. So she has been a YY mom. She's now a YY grandmom who's now had remarkable personal experiences and stories that she readily contributes to all of us to learn from. From the journey that you've had as a mother and a grandmom now, how do you feel that the YY has contributed to, first, the power of inquiry in the children, and two, the independence that it brings to seek valued answers?
Good morning, everybody. Just to make sure that all of you are awake, I'm going to ask all of you to stand up. Close your eyes, okay? And turn round with your eyes closed, firmly closed. Turn round 3 times in your spot. Once you've done that, stop. Now you may open your eyes and turn round again. All right, stop. So what was easier, the first time or the second time? Second time. So this is exactly what happens in a child's mind. That child who is inquiring those questions is like turning around in a darkened space, all right? So you can imagine, put yourself in that child's spot. They are inquiring because they want to know. Please sit down. So when you answer those questions, you are actually opening their eyes, and it becomes easier for them to turn around, right? Or to move forward. So I think what I have been doing as a mother, and now I am doing as a grandmother, because I have a 2-year-old, 2 years and 3 months exactly. My granddaughter is 2 years and 3 months old. I think my job as a mother and a grandmother has been to facilitate their creative journey. And I think when you start thinking creatively, the synapses in your brain start connecting, things start sparking, you are able to, your brain starts working. So as a mother and a grandmother, that is the work I do, yeah? And as a mother, I started that with my children. My son at age 2 was not speaking very much. So I took him to the pediatrician and we ruled out tongue tie. But I found that he was very well coordinated. He would be playing with blocks and making all kinds of things. And then I put him into school. This was a child who was really happy all the time. When he went to school, he did not want to hold a pencil. He didn't want to do anything. He literally went to the back of the classroom and went to sleep. So the teacher kind of called me to school and asked me, what should I do? I said, just let him sleep. Maybe he doesn't want to participate at this way. And I come from a background where I think going to school at 2 is too young, anyhow. So I said, because the system demands that children join at 2+ or whatever, I had put him into school. So then I was lucky. I had been educated in the UK. This was in the 70s. And I had learned about learning disorders and dyslexia and so on. So then this was in the 80s when I was here. And so I said, perhaps he is dyslexic. And I happened to go and meet Lalita of Alpha to Omega, because that was the only institution that was around. And they said, he's too young. We don't work with such young children. So I said, fine. I think I need to educate myself. So I went through a crash course of, with Sunita Sodhi to learn how to work with children who had learning disabilities. And I worked with my son. I found he responded to rhythm. He loved music. And I would use vegetables to teach him shapes and sizes and things. But that same child has graduated from UNSW in journalism and media studies. He's settled down in Melbourne and working for a bank. But I think what helped him was the fact that I worked with him in creative ways which would help him learn, okay? So, we are going away from the why, but I felt I was asking the why, and I wanted to know how to do this, and that helped this particular child. Now, coming forward. So then I started the Little Theatre in 91 because I felt the arts is the way forward. Music and rhythm helps develop the left side of your brain. So therefore, you end up being better at maths and sciences. It's been scientifically proven. So there is this correlation between the arts and the sciences and the learning that comes from it. So therefore I feel, so my children went through Bharatanatyam classes, they had Carnatic music, they learned Western classical music. I think I was a tiger mom, but I decided that when they came back from school, they were not going to be sitting and studying again. They needed time to learn something else and to play. I think play is really important. And that has helped my children find different avenues in their life to do different things. And it has helped them academically also. So that is the why. Now coming to today, my granddaughter, I started working with her from when she was 2 weeks old, because I've been doing toddler theater, working with the 2 to 4-year-olds, using theater workshops for children. And I've been doing that for the last 12 years. But with my granddaughter, I have now developed workshops for working with the 1 to 2-year-olds. And this, I see, is a remarkable way of working with babies. This little girl started talking in full sentences by the time she was 1 year old, 1.5, and she loves to read, meaning I read to her all the time. She will pick up the book and she remembers everything. So, but I have not forced her to learn. And now she's at the stage where she is asking why all the time. So she's got a whole set of adults around her who are answering that question all the time, very patiently. So I can see that she is really growing because we take the time and effort to actually explain things. But at the end of the day, when we do not have an answer, I kind of say, because. And then she has realized that, and she calls me Grand Momo, because I referred to her as a Momo for 9 months, so I became her Grand Momo. So I said, oh, Grand Momo now does not know the answer. Okay, and I think that's also important. Have I digressed too much? Okay, so
it's good to bring back a lot of
conversation.
Bring back a lot of personal experiences into this discussion. I now have Kitty sir, as he's popularly addressed. My father always used to tell me, you know what, the only stupid question is the question you don't ask. So in the context of asking questions, we also feel sometimes now, I know for one, my daughter, when she was very young, I said like, Papa, just hold on for a minute. And every 2 seconds, she would come back to me, is that minute run? So at least 30 times over in that minute, I would be answering, no, wait for some more time. But then she did not understand the concept of what the minute was at that point in time. And therefore, when we seek, how important is the contextual relevance of asking questions? This may not be true for very small children, but as we grow up, we are dumbed down by our own intent. And sometimes we don't seek to ask, we seek to believe in the relevance of what the history has taught us. How do you dispel this myth?
Such a beautiful and essential question. Thank you for asking. So why does this become, if I can say, such a strong binding force across decades, across centuries, across societies? As a result, it becomes a way of, growing, way of evolving for almost every human being. I think that's the importance of what you're asking. Which means we are asking a question about how is that we have got patterned in a particular way, and will it be comfortable? Will it be okay? Will it be, kind of a matter of ease to break that pattern? And so let's understand the foundation which is holding in the first place. For which we need to go to the two concepts that you touched in your opening remark, which is our recognition about the principle of duality in existence. I'm going to take a bit of time to explain this, and I hope that's okay with you. And I'm going to be using a bit of Tamil also, because that language is so philosophical, it helps us to understand a few things so much easily. I'll translate that, sure. Now, what is this principle of duality? It's fundamental. It's both scientific and philosophical. Scientifically, it is as simple as saying that the opposites coexist, okay? And we don't recognize the opposites coexisting most of the time. If I got to just give an example of that, opposites coexisting, okay, let me do that with a very simple exercise on this table. Very beautifully dressed ladies are here. I'm going to ask you a question. You've got to answer me in a second because it's a very simple question. What do you see in front of you? Quickly. What do you see in front of you? 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 Me. Fantastic. Put your hands together. They gave the most intelligent but the common answer. And there is a reality which they all experience but which none of them quoted. They said, I see the stage, I see you, I see the background, I see people on the stage. They talked about all of that. But what you first see is the open space between you and me, because but for the space, you cannot even see me. You see the space and see through the space to see me. This is a fundamental reality, yes or no? This is our challenge of life. What is most obvious does not strike us as the most obvious. Why am I saying this? Because this is the principle of duality. In the existence of space is the only possibility of identification of forms. We breathe in, we have to breathe out. The day breaks and there is beautiful sunlight, it has got to set, the darkness of the night has to come. For every beautiful species of female created, there will be this awesome male species created. We work during the day, we sleep during the night. Duality is the fundamental of creation. And this is the, by the way, this is the principle translated into this word, dharma. Dharma அப்படிங்கிற அந்த வார்த்தையினுடைய ஆழமான அர்த்தம். If you are keen about understanding this word dharma, I suggest go for a Google search and do a search for the meaning of the word dharma. The best of work has been done by Germans. They have dived deep into the Vedic scriptures because that's where the word dharma is used phenomenally. And they have come with a very beautiful kind of an answer. And the answer is that holistic harmony principle which balances the holding together of the opposite realities. That balancing holistic harmony principle which holds the opposite realities together. So why did I take this long kind of a detour to explain this word? Because I'm saying that's where we are not recognizing that in every human being, in every one of us, there is this simultaneity of what you use, the objective reality, which is the form, object, form, and the subjective reality, which is the energy. Want to call it a name, want to give it a label, you call it your core energy, you want to call it the universal consciousness, you want to call it the Atman, you want to call it the soul, you want to call it the Holy Spirit, doesn't matter. It is this simultaneous existence of the opposite, the one visible form at one level, and the other one absolutely non-evidential reality which activates. So what's happening? We, human beings, over the last, it's not just about centuries, maybe, thousands of years, because we have been formed with these 5 mechanisms to look outside, have been preoccupied with objective reality. And these 5 objective reality sensory organs are of course, your eyes, your ears, your nose. So we are programmed to look outside. And for us, this programming outside and objective reality only gives 3 dimensions of understanding the objective reality: the time, space and quantity, and quality. Time, volume, space, and quality. And what has happened to us over the period of time, and you can see that right today, right in the last few years so evidently, the concept of time in terms of progress has become faster than before, speedier than before. The concept of space has become larger than before, more than before. The concept of quality in terms of progress has become better than before, and finally more exclusive than before. But unfortunately, when you are not anchored in this other reality, the other subjective reality, the soulfulness, the same three things get violently negative. Speed instead of fast becomes haste. Volume instead of more becomes greed. And quality in terms of exclusivity instead of exclusivity becomes arrogance. That is what we experience today. With the highest of scientific development, one corona comes and slaps the whole world on the cheeks. With the highest of scientific development, progress of mankind, you see the Ukrainian war and the Arab war and every damn war happening across the globe, the most educated, the most brilliant, the most scientific human being, worse than any creature that you can think of, killing another human being ruthlessly, and we say we are a developed world, we must be insulting ourselves. Why? Because we are not anchored on the duality principle. We have become unidimensional, and that unidimensional objective reality, material reality, has become our pathway of defining success, therefore the pathway for education, therefore the pathway for our educational institution, management, running, and teaching. 2040 is a good time, 18 years, to wake up and do something about it. I wish you all the best, if you can.
Thank you. That was really deep, and the philosophical context of it was beautifully brought out. Now we will roll back into the space that we are in. Am I dumbing down the children? Because they ask me a lot of questions, and I pause and say, next question, please. So it's always that I don't know what the answer is, and then I go on to say that what's the next question? That's an interesting question. And then move on, which means, so it still was, I don't know the answer. Now, see, one, I'm dumbing down and retailing what somebody has asked. So Lieutenant General Arun talked about, say, what is logged inside and what I parrot to ask the children, rather than asking them to pause, reflect, and the space that Raja was talking about, the space that we are exploring outside versus the space that I have to explore inside. I mean, see, what are those kind of questions that, see, we seek? Because we desire as parents, we desire as teachers, we desire as principals and human beings that these are the kind of questions that the children should even ask us. So we place a lot of relevance to these questions and say that, hey, why don't you ask such a question so that I can give you this particular answer? So we don't even leave the possibility of questioning. So the children, with the intent for them to ask anything under the sun, so or outside of the sun too. So anything that is defined in the space of the cosmos. So should we, as conscious educators, promote this kind of a questioning which permits them to seek answers than us asking us to delve in the realms of our intelligence? So what should we do? Because see, we are confined by the realities of space and time, and General Sir did tell us that, hey, you're looking at what happened with the Aya, what happened with the transport, what happened here, what happened there. What should we focus on in order to nurture this critical inquiry in the children? Can you please throw some light also as a professional in your way that you've approached this, trying to assimilate, see, the life lessons you've learned into the theater program, but also working with other countries and cultures and bringing their dimensions of questioning and seeking answers?
That's a very difficult question to tell you what to do in your area of expertise, I guess. But the way I handle things about questions which I don't know, I would normally say, I don't know, but should we find out? So that we go on a inquiry journey, so that children realize that you are not a walking encyclopedia, that you do have gaps in your knowledge. And the way I look at it is that, you do a degree which allows you to and teaches you how to find more information. It's not that you know every bit of information that you studied in your degree. I'm actually a marine microbiologist. That's what I studied. So I did recognize that, creature, the general put-on thing as, oh, it looks like a marine animal, but I studied that like 40 years ago, and I couldn't specifically say what it was. So maybe, I don't know, can you put those questions that you are being thrown with, which you do not know the answer to, as a question time at a particular, half an hour every day, if you can find that half an hour, where you go on let's find out more about this. It may be a fun. I think everything should be a fun journey for a child. For my basic outlook at childhood is make that childhood joyous. Whatever the child is doing, whether it is studying in the classroom, whether it's doing an extracurricular activity, whether it's discovering something, make it a joyous experience, because then that child will wake up every morning wanting to go. If a child wakes up in the morning reluctant to go to a place, then there's something wrong. So maybe that's all we have to find, the joy of learning, the joy of exploring. What would you say?
Well, I'm actually very thrilled that he asked this question. And I'm almost itching to say, yeah, good that you asked that question. Look at the same thing. We take that objective, subjective reality a little further. And to the audience, these lovely people, I want to ask. Just ask yourself one simple, kind of personal question. Are most of the questions that we have professionally and personally, are they evaluative questions or evolutionary questions? You will get the answer automatically. Are most of the questions that we are asking in our life, are they evaluative questions or are they evolutionary questions? And there is a reason why I'm asking this, because with 99% of the obsession towards objective reality being a definition-oriented, measurement-oriented, size-oriented, form-oriented reality, obviously it is evaluative. And the objective reality will lead to three important kind of outcomes: evaluation, therefore comparison, therefore competition. That defines our world. That defines our world. We want to make our children competitive. We want to make sure that they are scoring very well. Are you the first? Are you the second? Nothing right or wrong about it, but I'm saying this is 95% of our reality. And if this is 95% of our reality, where is the space for the evolutionary questions? So the evaluative questions has only one simple kind of an outcome. Either you're right or you're wrong. Either this is okay or this is not okay. But you know what is the beauty of the evolutionary question? And a child asks an evolutionary question, what are the possibilities? It's not either or. It can be either, it can be or, it can be both, it can be more. A good teacher may actually tell the child with an evolutionary question saying that, that's fantastic. You know what? I have the same question. I don't know the answer. That is the power of evolutionary. Please go ahead and do that. That's very important to recognize the importance of this. The ability to own one's fragility, the ability to own one's inability, the ability to say that I'm as human as you are, and that moment of saying I'm as human as you are, magic happens in life. My dear friends, magic happens in life. And when we create that magic, a child actually says, I'm not small anymore, I'm as good. Can you imagine? This is the gift that we can bring to children. And I'm saying that's where we need to have this simultaneity of objective reality and yet the anchoring into the subjective reality, the soulfulness of being human, because that's where evaluation stops and the highest, most research phenomenal PhD guy is equivalent to that wonderful 3-year-old smiling, that little child which has done 30 in its chaddi. Doesn't matter. That is the beauty, equalizing. We're all together in this, through feeling. So I think that's where the answer really comes in. We need to create this possibility, the ability of a parent to sit down with a child, and when the child says, this is what happened, and this boy pushed me and I fell down, and look at the hurt that I have in my, and the father also says, what happened when I was 3 years old, I fell down like this. It happened to me also. For 2 weeks, I thought I'll never walk, but I'm able to walk now. Okay? It happens. Beautiful world. Not intellectual alone, not conceptual alone, but also experiential and human. I think the whole range of those are possible, but they are possible only under certain conditions, and that I will leave for the third question. Now up to you.
And I was just going to add to that. With my grandchild, we have reached a different level, because when something happens, I do tend to ask her, what are you feeling? Because I think it is important to know what the child is actually feeling, because then they are able to tell you exactly what they're feeling. Are they feeling upset? Are they feeling angry? Are they feeling hurt? Are they feeling confused? Because then you will be able to pinpoint the kind of information that child needs to be, told. And even though my little granddaughter, Atya, is only 2 years old, she is able to tell me when she is upset. I said, are you feeling sad? Something had happened. So I said, Atya, are you feeling sad? She said, no, Grandmama, I am upset. She is able to tell me what her feelings are. And I think if a 2-year-old can actually do that, imagine what more you will get from your older children. You need to let them, so they do not, keep all those feelings pent up inside, so that one day it doesn't explode and they commit suicide. Because they are not able to be in a comfortable space and be able to cope with all those feelings. And I think it will help in the learning process, because when there is a lot of noise inside you, which I learned with children who are autistic, with children who have learning disabilities, and it comes from fear. When there is a lot of noise inside you, you are not going to be able to think. You are not definitely you won't be able to learn. So if you can get that noise inside every child for them to become calm, then they will be in a space where they will be willing and wanting to learn.
Thank you so much. See, now I just have a few minutes, so this is pretty interesting. So let us consider that all of us here want something. So can you just pause for a second and the one thing that you actually want? Think about it. It's not what you need, but what you want. And if I were to tell you the answer is yes, what would be the question? So I'm just saying that each of us have this, right? So we have different wants. The answer is yes. What would you ask me as a question? So anybody, Shankar sir, would you want to take a call on that? The answer is yes. What is the question?
So the want may be very individual to individual. So my want may not be somebody's need also. See, my want should be somebody's need, and somebody's need be my want actually. It's very the individuals, and that want also, it may take some time. So something want now, it may not be after 1 year, so it may not be want for me. So if you are asking question to me individual or as a student's point of view you're asking actually.
Oh, very good. See, he's putting questions to questions, and he also says that there are multiple perspectives here, right? So I would leave all of us with some of the questions that we would otherwise ask and seek answers. Now, when we construct information, so we ask ourselves multiple questions. So from the standpoint of being an individual, to a standpoint as being a reflective practitioner, to a standpoint of being a professional, we had Ms. Aysha Rau and Raja Krishnamoorthy sir talking about the various dimensions that are actually presented in the formats of different kinds of questioning. So as we seek knowledge, our curiosity builds, and I'm certain with every passing question that we have, we would not have answers but layers and layers of multiple questions.
Yeah.
When we promote this idea of questioning, leaving it open-ended for children, the children will try and understand from every single possibility that exists among their groups. We had a little conversation about counterfactuals yesterday, day before, when we said that the children open up the possibilities. If only I were to answer the question this way, I would have had a different set of consequence. Now, multiple possibilities exist, multiple answers exist, the needs or wants of others, the wants of needs of others. And I'm certain the way that we shape the questioning would permit us to find more answers. Some of them need not be pertinent at this point in time because contextual spaces of the subjective and objective realities where also plays could give them an answer 10 years from now. What we are seeking here, sir, is not result, not even certain learning outcomes, but behavioral outcomes. So when we are talking about raising learners for 2040, most of us here, I'm certain we may not be as relevant to the world of 2040 that we are now. I'm going ahead and making a rude comment that we are actually getting old. So by 2040, some of us here may not be as relevant as we are to this space, and the clock is ticking.
I'm tempted to add something. Can I?
Yes, sir.
If it's okay with you?
Absolutely, sir.
One of the ways in which we can really see these two opposite, not just conceptual, but the living, kind of dualities, but which we mix up, is this huge confusion that in taking role, and especially in taking role as a teacher, taking role as a parent, taking role as a principal, we are getting predominantly role-bound. And I'm taking a couple of seconds to explain what that leads to. Ultimately, remember that any role can only be part of a structure. A role is part of a structure. The individual who is taking that part is a human being. I mean, this is as simple as we can make it. A role is part of a structure, and the moment we say a role is part of a structure, what does that role do? Number one, it's a role which is connected. If I'm a husband, I'm connected to the wife. If I'm a father, I'm connected to my child. If I'm a teacher, I'm connected to my students. If I'm a principal, I'm connected to the institution and a structure. So first of all, a role is a structure. And a role, because it's a structure, has to be governed by structural compulsions and system needs. Structure and systems becomes an essential part of it. So the essence of structure and system is what I call in Tamil the two-lettered word, tan. I'll come to what is tan. Then there is this other side, because the role is occupied by the human being, by the individual. And the moment you recognize that there is an individual, there is a human being, he is beyond, she is beyond, that human being is beyond all structures and systems. It is tan, Tamil word, which represents not only tan in terms of tan, tanmai, iyalbu, nature of existence itself, the state of being. Whereas tan, you know what it is? இப்படித்தான் அப்படித்தான் இதற்காகத்தான் இவர்தான் இந்த வழியில்தான் என்று சொல்லக்கூடிய அத்தனை conditions, அத்தனை நிபந்தங்கள், that is called the world of tan, the world of conditions. You require structure and systems because those conditions are your process, standard operating process, SOPs, SLAs, turnaround times. For a society to organize itself and work properly, you require structure and systems. No two ways about it. Structural realities in the objective world gives you progress, comforts, fantastic. But what is Tan? Tan is beautiful, Tanmay, the nature of being. We call ourselves human being, but we don't pause for a second to say, what is this present continuous thing about me that I'm called as a human being, like a man talking, a child laughing, a girl dancing? What is this being? That is the core of the soulfulness that we are talking about, the eternal reality. And why is this very important for us? Because whatever we do on this structure and system, we become terrific managers, we produce results, we are delivery boys. We are all Suzuki, what is that? What employees? Swiggy employees. Let's understand that we are all employed by Swiggies in our life. We are all delivery boys. But do you want to be really a manager? You can be a delivery boy on this side, structure system. But you want to evolve as a human being? Recognize that you've got to be a leader. Leading is very, very different fundamentally from managing. Leading is showing the way. Way for what? Way for the journey of life. And what is the purpose of the journey of life? To discover your utmost as a human being, which is Sat Chit Ananda. To recognize that you are eternity, to recognize that you are conscious intelligence, and to recognize that Unnudiya Tanmay, your original nature, is blissfulness and happiness. What a beautiful gift. I think if we can do this together, I think we are there. Let's not anymore confuse between being a leader and being a manager. If you think that just because you're in a role, you're automatically a leader, please wash up your face, clean up your eyes, wear new lenses, become that being-oriented person. I wish you all the very best.
Thank you so very much.
That's why I think the arts comes in, because it allows you to understand that there is no yes and no answers.
Brilliant.
There are, lots of other possibilities. And the arts allows you to be yourself. I find that with all the, even young adults who come into our rehearsal spaces, and when we put a production together, they feel liberated. That's what they say. They feel totally liberated because they are allowed to be themselves. My artistic director does not ask them to be anybody else but themselves. And I think if every child is allowed to be themselves, you will be having all these unique individuals within your classroom who will learn the same syllabus, but they will bring in different aspects of that subject.
Brilliant.
And
Brilliant.
that is the way forward, because you will be able to have different ways of solving the same problem. You have creative solutions
Very
to
well
each problem.
Very
And
well
that is why you should never kill that difference of a child being different, because you never know what kind of a creative solution will come out from that child, because they are thinking in a different way. So I think that is really the importance of
Beautiful.
creativity and arts.
So I think we really need to bring this discussion to a closure. We had some very interesting thoughts emerge during this open-ended conversations, with a number of questions that we asked of ourselves, and placed the context to the larger audience here. And I'm certain we would leave this space with a greater number of questions. So we thank Raja sir and Aysha ma'am for this wonderful insight. And I hope there has been a lot of learning, and we are humbled by what we heard. Thank you so very much. And this has been a wonderful learning to all of us, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.